Well, hey, you guys, welcome to MyChurch midweek services online. I'm so pumped to see all you guys tuning in. Welcome to friends, family, those of you who belong to other churches and are just tuning in to see what this is all about. To our team tuning in, want to give you a big shout out. What's up, you guys? This is typically a forum that we use at a school hall to develop our leadership serving Army team volunteers with leadership teachings and leadership culture so that we can empower their acts of service to another level of strength for the people in our world. And so I want to encourage you guys to stick along tonight for today's services. Tonight, we're going to be talking about innovation and how appropriate, considering that this great limitation that we as the larger church find ourselves in, how no longer being able to meet physically and now having to meet online and digitally. I think it's an opportunity for us to not just the limitation to lead to like a fizzle out, but it's a limitation that could lead to an innovation. And so that's why I want to encourage you to let the limitation lead to improvisation, just kind of figuring some stuff out that'll ultimately lead you to a great innovation and hopefully a great breakthrough in your ministry. But hey, listen, 6 thoughts I have for you just quickly though, before we begin, is concerning the coronavirus. 6 things to think about. Can I just say, I think it's important and imperative that we all just can see that this is probably a much bigger deal than we all first imagined. I think that many of us kind of came in like, not so certain about this, but I think it's about time we concede and therefore consider, number 2, what it is that the health professionals are actually saying to us all. Listen, I've observed a couple of different responses online, 3 of which that I've learned to give some language to, is that people either belittle, belabor, or believe. They either belittle it, belabor it, or believe it. Can I encourage you, don't be the guy who belittles it. Although, if you're going to continue with your memes, they are good for bringing laughter, and laughter is good for good medicine for the soul. So I encourage all of that. But belittling it in the sense of truly mocking it, it's a little bit superficial to me. Belaboring it and making mountains out of molehills, probably not equally a good response or a useful response by any means. I know that some people are like, the media is responsible for belaboring this whole thing and making pandemonium, but it is not a pandemonium, it's simply a pandemic. And that's why we ought to believe it. And when we believe right, I think we behave right. And when you believe, you will behave accordingly and therefore show the appropriate amount of concern that it requires. Concern, number 3. And let's heed the warnings and give the proper amount of weight to these warnings. Obviously, let's realize, guys, that it's not the media world that is labeled a pandemic. It is the medical world. And when you realize that, no doubt the media has made a pandemonium out of this whole pandemic, but it has been labeled a pandemic, not because the medical professionals were watching the media and going, oh guys, we better up our ante, but because they were watching the virus spread and saying, hey, listen, this is not like other viruses that have gone before us, even though there are similarities to H1N1, SARS, and what have you, but it is different, and as such, we ought to act a little bit different because there are very real, number 5, consequences. There are consequences. This is a real threat, And that does not prove that God is no longer on the throne. I think that it doesn't challenge God's goodness by any stretch, but nobody wants to be the guy who's going to be responsible or be the guy listed or numbered who's going to be the one responsible for spreading this sickness more than it needs to. Right now, you might feel fine. You might feel like you have no symptoms, so you're out in circulation, going to friends' houses for gatherings, but that's the whole point. You could be carrying it for 10 to 14 days, supposedly, and not even know you have it, and all the while you're contagious and spreading it, so everybody you come in contact with is now threatened and could stand to get it. That's my point. Let's stay confined so that we can ultimately stay confident and remain part of the solution and not part of the problem in this. Better be safe than sorry, as Kerry Newhoff said this week in his blog, and be listed among those who overreact as opposed to those who are numbered among those who have a delayed reaction and ultimately live in the consequences of that. Now, with real consequences, obviously comes some real fears for some people. And that's why number 5, I think it's imperative that we are aware of what we consume in this season. Hey, you could just be looking to be informed. And that's a great idea. I think we all ought to be informed, but there's a big difference between being informed and letting our soul be infected with fear, anxiety, panic, and distress, and restlessness, and what have you. The reality is, hey, be informed, but don't be infected. You know what's contagious? Fear. Because fear and faith are very similar in their functionality. They both produce, they both attract, and that's why I want to encourage you to be on the side of faith and not on the side of fear. Andy Andrew at Liberty Church NYC, shout out, what's up, Andy? You're the best. But she actually gave a great blog one time, and she says, "What you dwell on, you will dwell in." And I think that it's imperative this season that we be careful what we're dwelling on in our thoughts, in our minds, on our social feeds. What are you feeding? I pray that you be feeding faith in this season. And just staying, honestly, sensible, hey? Wash your hands, stay hygienic, stay confined so you can stay confident. And ultimately, in the lockdown with 4 kids, stay sane, stay sanitized. Stay sane, stay sanitized, and just watch what you consume. And last but not least, maybe you are listed among those who really is truly scared. You're fearful and not faith-filled. And can I just learn, let's learn then how to console, number 6, console your soul. How to console your soul. How do you quiet the fears? My prayer is that you learn to do what my son did. Wash yourself in worship. You know what worship does? It washes away the worry. You know what the Word of God does? It stands as an authority over, the things that happen in the winds of change in our day and age. The Word of God remains constant. And that's why Psalm 91, though 1,000 may fall, 10,000 my other, hey, guess what? This shall not come near you. Be still and know that I am God. And be still in this season. Know that God is God. Though you surrounded, He surrounds. I'm surrounded by you. That whole thing. Oh, what a great worship song. This week my son was in worship, and he was listening to The Blessing by Carrie Job, Cody Carnes, and Stephen Furtick and the Elevation Team. What a great song. And as he was singing it, it was like this thing washed over him, because it was, God bless you, God keep you, make His face shine upon you, be gracious to you, and fill you with His peace. What a great song to be released into the earth at the time it did. And as he sat on the couch, it was amazing. He sat there and he just began to cry. And I was like, "Judah, are you okay?" And as he began to just get cry, he's like, "No, Daddy, it's good." And I had good tears. He said, "This is God. It's God. It's heavy, Daddy." I'm like, "Is it hurting?" I was like, "What's happening right now?" He's 8. I'm like, "What?" And sure enough, the Holy Spirit came in power upon him, like He did when I did in my life at 18 years old, and set my life in a whole different trajectory. This kid is getting totally wrecked by the presence of Jesus, and he just comes on him in such a powerful way. He begins to weep, and he goes, "Daddy, it's like thick, heavy air. It's heavy on my chest, but it's like air that you walk through." And he kept going like this, like you're like kind of like swimming through the air almost. And what he didn't realize is theologically, the kabod, the glory of God, is called weighty. And the breath of God, the Spirit of God, is called the breath of God, the pneuma. It's like breath, air. I believe the presence of Jesus showed up in our living room and just put peace into his unrest. And the truth is, he hasn't been the same since. He's been so confident and so at peace and so aware and awake to the presence of God around him. And that's what I think that so many of it's good to be aware, but it's equally good to be awake about the fact that God is still with you. He is for you, and He's filling you with His peace. Anyways, so can I encourage you guys? Let's go. Stay committed to community more than ever. And let's understand that this is a year that God did not crown the year with His sickness. It is a year where God is crowning it with His goodness. Psalm 65:11. May God crown this year with His goodness. Notice corona is Spanish for crowned. Well, many people are going to try to remember this year as a year crowned with sickness, but I believe the Word of God has already declared it. It is a year crowned with His goodness. even the hard paths will drip with his abundance. You might be going through some hard stuff, navigating some dark emotions, but I believe even those things are going to produce God's abundance in your life. And so can I encourage you, stay stress-free, stay blessed. We love you guys. Stay tuned. We've got a whole leadership talk on innovation coming right up, right after this. Tell you, God is not mad at you. And I believe the essence and the true sense of the message of the Bible is good news toward humanity.
Well, how many groups are you in right now?
4.5. Rock climbing on Friday. I accidentally went to hers.
She was a visitor at mine.
And I'm in Emma's sisterhood one. And then I lead one. And there's another one. Yes, Lori and Liz's, because the girl that I brought, we were having, anyway, that's besides the point.
We met in Connect Group.
We did?
Connect groups are a small group of people that meet during the week. You meet good people, you eat good food, you play fun games, and you just have the best time ever.
So you'll hear this church talk a lot about Connect groups, the fabric of our community and the health of the church. And it really comes down to Connect groups.
I'm Anastasia. Silas runs my mom's group with Nicole.
The things that we carry inside, a lot of times we think we're the only ones that feel that way, but you'd be surprised how many people are going through the very same things.
And just talk about the real stuff in life. Talk about the things that maybe men typically try to avoid.
The best thing about Connect groups, and for myself being in a sisterhood Connect group, is the community that you get to join.
My favorite thing about Connect groups is hanging out with people that don't want to do homework.
You know, just having people come over and just doing life together with other moms, and then kids get friends really young.
It's literally home away from home, it's family. So you have to join one. Go to mychurchcanada.com.
All right, what's up, midweek? Hey, everybody online, friends, family, anyone connecting into us right now. This is our midweek service. This is where we get together with our volunteer army and we ask everyone to come in and lean in. What an opportunity we have here to have My Church midweek online. I want to encourage you guys to lean into what we're doing. This is where we give some leadership culture, some leadership thoughts. You know, the truth is, I believe that right now, despite the coronavirus and the craziness that we find ourselves in, I think that we have a great opportunity as the church, capital C, to innovate right now. And obviously, we've all come across a great limitation. And that limitation is that we're not able to meet physically. Bars, restaurants here in Canada, everything has been shut down. Schools, only the bare necessities, grocery stores, pharmacies, and what have you, gas stations are open. And so I think that this limitation has given us an opportunity for improvisation. Come on, guys, it's time to improvise and just figure this thing out along the way. And then ultimately lead to a great season of innovation for us as a church. And that's why I thought it'd be cool today at the midweek to talk to you guys around innovation and some of the hurdles that we as creatives need to get over. Hey, you know what? It doesn't matter if you work with Excel sheets or you work with music or you work in a hair salon. Everybody's creative. And we all get, because creativity really is just coming up with ideas to solve problems. And therefore, I want to talk to you today about the work of art. The work of art. Some of us work with art. And I believe that home is not only where the heart is, home is where the art is. Hey. Anyways, I want to talk to you about the hurdles that many of us as creatives have to overcome, especially I think many of the hurdles that many of us are going to face as preachers and pastors right now, taking our stuff online. Can I encourage you, when I work with creatives, they're all typically kind of hurdles we have to overcome, but one of the great ones is separating your ideas from your identity. You know, right now, you might get some feedback from team going, yeah, that was kind of lame, guys, we could probably do better or whatever. But a common mistake I see so many of us make is growing too emotionally tied up with our ideas. You know, I think it's important that you don't over-identify right now with your ideas, but rather maintain a healthy emotional distance, not just a social distance, but an emotional distance, and separate your ideas from your identity. The reality is you are not your ideas. And this is often how I see this whole principle worked out. Be it songwriting, some songwriter comes into my office and goes, I got this song, it came right from heaven. God gave me this song. And I always go, whoa, whoa, whoa. If God gave you that song, that means it's like perfect. And you know, it's crazy. When you played that song for me, I was like, man, well, Jesus, you could work on, you know, this part of the chorus and this part of the bridge. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it wasn't a perfect song. It didn't sound like heaven initially, maybe eventually, but not right now. And I think that's because we've made the mistake as many creatives is thinking that we get a song, an idea from God. No, God didn't give you the song from heaven. He gave you the gift of writing songs from heaven. And that difference is huge. It's not the song, it's the gift of songwriting. And that allows you to then to workshop. And that allows you to allow process to refine, you know, the promise or the song itself. What about a business leader who over-identifies with his company and puts his identity and all of his stock in this one idea? Well, what happens when the whole trend in which your company is built on, when the trend comes to an end? What then? It can be devastating. Some of us don't know when to get off that bus. You know, we ride that horse until it's literally, you know, it's a dead horse. And you know what? I would encourage everybody, if you're riding a dead horse right now, disembark, get off. You know, it's okay, because your idea is not your identity. Ideas are like Kleenexes. You pull one Kleenex out of the Kleenex box, and what follows? Another Kleenex. Pull one idea out, I guarantee you there's another one that's coming right on the corner. Just keep acting, allow the flow of your ideas to continue. But never allow this idea that my whole idea, this is my identity, it'll just stifle your creativity. Nevertheless, when we fail to properly separate these ideas, it can really cramp creativity. And you know what? People can't criticize a performance because you're going to take it as a criticism against your person. But it's not. It's just against your performance. It's a big deal. So while your creativity may be a reflection of who you are, it is not the true substance of who you are. It's just a shadow. So let's remember that and separate our ideas from our identity. Number two, second hurdle that I see many of us that are likely going to have to overcome in this season of innovation and as in the church is don't be too big to imitate. You know what? Guys, can I just say there are some churches and some people that are doing some really cool stuff right now. And I'm inspired by them. And the truth is, though, many of us feel like we have to have uniqueness. We have to have our own little unique fingerprint on everything. And so we don't want to do what other people are doing. But if you're too big to imitate, I always like to tell people, then you're too small to innovate. Why? Because quite simply, imitation is the ground floor of innovation. You must imitate, which will ultimately lead to improvisation, which will lead to, you know, innovation. And or you could say you imitate, and then you emulate, and then you innovate. You know, whatever steps of the ladder you want to take to innovation, you do that. But bottom line is, imitation is, the ground floor to innovation. Understand that imitation is actually a form of education. I think this, in the process of imitating other people's work, we actually learn. I know every guitar player I ever knew has always started playing some riffs from some famous guy, and they learn how to play those things until they can learn to express themselves. Well, that's why imitating is not about stealing someone else's genius. Some of you are so worried about, I don't want to steal their ideas. Well, hey, it's not about stealing. As a matter of fact, imitating is the greatest form of flattery as far as I'm concerned. But it's not about stealing someone else's genius, and it's not about stifling your own genius. It's not about stealing or stifling. It's about studying and educating yourself through that imitation. So can I encourage you? Allow it to stretch you and strengthen you so that you operate at a different level. And just as a baby comes into the world and often learns language through copycat and mimicking sounds, so you and I are likely going to have to do the same. We will become fluent in the language of our art, of our expression, of our ideas when we learn how to imitate others. So don't be too big to imitate. Number three, Creativity does not need to, feelings do not, we don't, what is what I'm trying to say? Creativity does not rely on feelings to function. Creativity does not rely on feelings to function. I'm convinced that one of the main differences that separate a creative amateur from a creative professional is that creative professionals can create on command. The truth is, I'm sure we've all experienced times when we haven't necessarily felt inspired. I know there's definitely been times where that I can count so many times that I just straight up wasn't feeling it. How many of you guys have been there? You're just not feeling it. You might call it, a writer's block, a mental block, a creative block. The reality is, whatever it may be, it's important that we don't play victim to it. Because why? Because regardless of the block, we're still gonna play to the clock. Hey guys, hashtag for me, Sunday is coming. And so you best have something to say to people, because Sunday's gonna roll around and you don't wanna be that guy who's sitting there going, well, I just had mental block today, so sorry church, we're gonna throw on such and such a guy here today on the screens. No, let's be the guys who understand that we still gotta be creative. Timelines and deadlines, some of us like rage against that as creatives, like, no, you gotta let it flow. Well, you know what? I believe that you're always gonna stay small in the area of your creativity, because the greatest innovators, the greatest creative people I know are people who can create on a timeline. Why? Because I found that timelines can actually be a form of limitation that induce the limitation. Pressure, pressure acts like a pressure cooker. It just forces the idea a little bit faster. And while, sure, you might get to the other side of it and go, man, but it could have been better. Man, it'll always be better. Why? Because you're always growing in your creativity and in your ideas and in your excellence. So my encouragement to you is that rather than trying to hit a home run with every idea you ever had, you know what's better than, just don't seek a home run every time. Just seek a great batting average. A great batting average. Not everything's going to be all killer. Sometimes it's going to be a bit filler. You know what I mean? But that's all right. Just flow and allow the creativity to continue to flow. Create a routine and make it sacred. By establishing a routine, we create predictability. And there's one thing that does. I think predictability creates productivity. And I want to encourage you in that. The last hurdle that I want to encourage you guys as a creative people out there is to not seek perfection, but seek excellence. Stop trying to present perfection. Some of you guys right now are looking at how you can overproduce and get all the right gear and all the right lighting to get all this stuff out to the world. Can I just encourage you? Just get your phone, tape you and your wife in your living room right now and get something out there. Because the truth is that you keep seeking, perfection and you'll do nothing. Ecclesiastes 11:4 says if you want perfect conditions, if you're waiting for perfect conditions, you'll get nothing done. And I agree. If you're waiting for the perfect video to outdo everybody else out there, man, just get something out there. Just release stuff. Stop trying to present perfection, because it's stifling your creativity. What we need to realize is that ideas are much like Kleenex boxes, like I said. Just keep releasing it and more will come. But beware, you'll never do anything if you're looking for the perfect thing. The beauty to me is in the imperfections anyways. The part that many of us relate to on a social media forum is not, as soon as I smell commercialized material that we know that the person who's behind the screen didn't actually do, but it was their team, you know what we do? I often just swipe next. I'm not really that interested in it. And the reality is I think it's because we're not as much into the flow as much as we're into the flaw. I connect with the flaw. I love videos that are perfectly imperfect. I had the opportunity when we're producing music, just giving an analogy, real quick thing. When we went to Nashville, I had this opportunity to work with a producer, mastering guru. That's what I like to call him. I'm sure if he heard me say that, he'd laugh. But a man by the name of Nathan Dancer at the Hit Lab in Nashville. He got a hold of one of our tracks and he was helping produce with us on this track. And he goes, guys, it's way too perfect. No one's gonna connect with this because it's way too polished and overproduced. He's like, let me have at it. And so he started separating all of our synthesizers. He started separating all these instruments. Hey, dude. He's separating all these tracks and he started detuning all of our synths. He's detuning all of our guitars and creating all this dissonance and this confliction in the song. And I was like, man, isolated, it sounded so bad. And I was like, oh my God, I was biting my tongue, but I was just going on faith here, going that this guy's a professional. He knows what he's doing. He produces more music than I could ever dream of. He's worked with more artists than I could ever imagine. And so I'm going to go with this. And as he began to throw them back into the overall mix, it was nuts. He created this really interesting piece. And he goes, guys, people connect to the flaw, the imperfection. And now you've got yourself a song. And it really was cool to see how it became a little bit of a masterpiece and as a result of that. And you know, it's crazy, isn't it? I think that right now you guys are maybe editing out all the actual real stuff, all the funny stuff that makes your video interesting to people. Can I encourage you? Just release what you got and see what happens. Watch how God will use it. I know, like Jesus said, I'll just put my water out there and he'll turn it to wine. Maybe you need to put something very ordinary out there and watch God put his supernatural to it. But, you know, one last story. I remember working with these guys on our team. They worked at a company called Shared. And what they did is they did all these videos. You may have even come across it over your social media. They make videos of showing how to make certain meals, or they do magic tricks. You know those cameras where they go on a table and it shows you how to do something in like a minute and a half? Well, they produce these videos. And one of these guys, who's the videographer for that company, came and chatted with me. And I began to ask him questions. So tell me about your most viewed video. And he goes, man, it's had millions of views. It went viral. It's crazy what happens. And I'm like, what was the video that you're the most proud of? And he tells me, man, I did this one video. I produced it, the cinematography on it, the transitions, the lighting, the color grades, everything about it, Caleb, was just like a work of art. I'm like, man, was that the one that got the most views? He goes, actually, it was the one that got the least views. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, what we discovered was that moms and people on their social media wanted to watch this stuff. As soon as they smelled commercialism on it, as soon as they smelled an organization putting this thing together that wasn't DIY, they just swiped right and went to the next one. And you know, that really spoke to me. He's like, what people relate to is the imperfections. You gotta produce it just about to the point where it looks like it was done by you. And I thought that was so interesting. Maybe that's a word for somebody out there today who's like really in their heads and feeling insecure about releasing anything and saying anything to the world right now. No, imitation leads to improvisation, leads to innovation. Listen to me. Go and improvise right now. Dabble at it. Release some stuff out. See what happens. Watch what works. Don't take it personal if it doesn't. Your ideas are not your identity. Don't seek perfection. Wait, because it's going to stop. Release it. Just do the excellence is doing the best that you can with the resources that you have. That's why you can be more excellent as a little church than some mega churches who have mega bucks and mega cash to make something happen. Honestly, I believe that it doesn't matter where you are, you can do something. So my encouragement to you guys across the word today is, hey, let's not allow certain hurdles in our creativity to stifle the creativity or to cramp our creativity. Separate your ideas from your identity. Don't be too big to imitate. Creativity does not rely on your feelings to function, and stop seeking perfection. Start seeking excellence. I'm praying for you guys, praying for your greatest hour. Pray you continue to go forward in strength. I believe these are our greatest days, you guys. So have the most fun and keep killing it there. Stay committed to community. And remember, everybody, stay sane, stay sanitized. Love you. Can I pray for you? Can we pray for you? Sure. All right. God bless you. God keep you in this season in the grip of his grace. God shine his face upon you, be gracious to you, and fill you with his peace, his shalom. Amen. Love you guys. We'll see you next Wednesday for the midweek. We got Tuesday gatherings, Sunday gatherings. Hey, be watching our socials. Stay on the page. Stay posted. But guys, I promise you it's going to be a great week. Having some fun. Look at this kid. Okay, bye. Upon you, be gracious to you,
and fill you with his peace, his shalom. Amen. Love you guys.